Yeah, so I wanted to make a short guide on how to play the sorceress. And the problem is that there are so many guides out there, and if you want to know what skill build to go, there are so many guides. If you want to know what is the optimal stats and all of that stuff, there are so many guides. But those guides are not really going to help you as a new player or an intermediate player to really maximize the effectiveness of your sorceress. So therefore, a couple of points that people really get wrong when it comes to playing the sorceress. And number one is, just in general, clicking buttons. The only thing that is going to make you better at Diablo 2 or any other game is to actually log into a game and click your buttons and practice clicking your buttons. Practice make perfect. The more times you click your buttons, the better you become at clicking your buttons. And there is no guide in the whole world can teach you to be a better button clicker. So this is what people miss, because people tend to, I've noticed, because I started playing Diablo 2 at launch, actually. I didn't have a good enough computer, so I had to travel to my father's place to play Diablo 2, because I could only play StarCraft back in 1999, 2000, 2001, that time. So I've been playing this game back and forth for a very long time, and back in the days, there were no guides, right? There was just the Ariat Summit webpage, and that was about it. So you had to actually play the game, right? But nowadays there are so many guides, and people tend to sort of approach the game theoretically. Just as an example, I have like 3 Ormus robes in my inventory. I'm magic finding ancient tunnels, by the way, dragon shield, 1 socket. And I wanted to trade one of my Ormus that has 14% cold skill damage. That's almost perfect. Perfect would be 15%. I asked for a rune, and rune, and then the guy said, "Oh, it's so expensive," and he said that there are no guides that show you that you need to play Ormus. And when I heard that, then I was like, wow. It has really changed, right? So, and I kept on telling the guy that, look, you shouldn't rely on guides, right? You should ask yourself if you need Ormus. If you need cold skill damage, Ormus is the right thing. If you need skills and resistance, then you should go for Viper. If you need magic find, you should go for Skulders. Which I'm using. It actually dropped the other day. Before that I was using Viper Magi. So it's not about what the guide says, it's about what you need for your character. So it would be very sad to play the game and you have really good stuff that drops, but because you have not seen a guide that says that you should use it, you kind of devalue it. So that encounter in the trade motivated me to make this guide that, guys, you have to stop following guides. Guides are only guides. They can only point you in the right direction, but the number one thing that is gonna determine if you make it or not in Diablo 2 or World of Warcraft for that matter, any other game, is how much you click buttons. It's just a matter of going into the game and clicking buttons and enjoying, having fun. Oh, an Urtrun, but I don't need Urtruns. I have plenty of Urtruns. So that's it. That's the number one. People just don't practice. They play the game theoretically. And that's the number two thing that people do wrong also. Overly emphasis on following guides that assume that you have a stash filled with high runes. Well, for me, I am not running so many high runes. I'm using a lore. I'm using a Mara's. I was lucky Mara dropped. I think it was from Mephisto. Spirit is pretty cheap. Spirit is cheap. Skulders dropped. Before Skulders I was using this Viper Magi. No, not that one. The one with 32. Which also dropped. Viper Magi is pretty easy. I'm using a bunch of yellow boots. Faster cast rate ring. Snow Clash. Volcatos and Chance Guard. That's about it. And on the Switch I have Blade of Alibaba and Littlest Wall. It's not the greatest gear in the world, but my Blizzard does 4.8k damage, and this blizzard can kill Baal in hell and the throne of destruction, right? So this is it. And because people play the game theoretically, and which means that they actually don't play the game, they play it based on their mind expectation and not based on, actually just doing 100 Mephisto runs and dying and, learning how to teleport correctly and so on. That leads to the third point, which is bad decision making. Like, people make so many bad decisions in trades and also when it comes to many aspects of the game. Just as an example, if you get a high rune, don't immediately go and trade that for a Shaco, right? Just as an example, if you get a high rune, don't go and trade that for a Shaco. Shaco is something that is very valuable, but not necessarily something that is very rare. I mean, Shaco is a cape in elite item quality level. So to actually get a Shaco to drop is not impossible. Shaco can drop from Endario, Shaco can drop from Mephisto, Shaco can drop from many sort of bosses and elite packs in hell mode, right? Whilst a high rune can also drop from many sources, but high runes are like they are not depending on your magic find, so there's not really so much you can do for a high rune to drop. You just have to farm a lot and be lucky. Whilst Shaco, if you keep on spamming Mephisto and Earl Mephisto over and over again with decent high rune, eventually Shaco is gonna drop. So yes, I understand that a guide says that Shaco is the best in slot helm and so on, but just going and trading a high rune for Shaco is like that's a really bad decision for most people. That's a bad decision for most people. It's a good decision for you if you have like almost the base gear in every other slot and you just need that helm. Then a Shaco might be worth a high rune for you. But for most people, that's going to be a very bad trade. You should definitely save your high runes for something else other than that. Or just something like creating just generally this overly reliance on guides makes that people, they basically they make decisions as if they are rich. So they try to build a sorceress with what? Hoto, Enigma, and all of those things, and build their entire build based on Hoto and Enigma and stuff like that. And that's really bad decision making, because high runes are very rare and you're not gonna get an Enigma for the first couple of months. So forget about that. Try to build a little bit more budget. For example, going for Tal Rasha could be something more budget. It's just the amulet and the armor that is valuable in Tal Rasha. Going some type of Viper Magi with Oculus or Spirit, that's a very good option. That's good decision making, right? Trying to get some good yellows and the uniques that you can find, that's good decision making. But assuming that just because you're looking at a guide when you start off Diablo 2, you're going to get the high runes and you build your entire sort of strategy based on that. That's really that bad. That's really bad decision making. And that brings us back to the fifth point. See, because of the focus on theory over actually clicking buttons, over actually being down in the nitty-gritty, learning how to play the game by trial and error, and learning how to press your skills, how to hotkey, how to teleport, how to throw blizzard, where to throw blizzard, how to spam ice blast blizzards, glacial spike blizzard, how to kite, how to position your mercenary, all of these things, you don't enjoy the game as much. You read a guide, then you get a certain expectation. You have read that, oh, now you're supposed to go to ancient tunnels, right? you're supposed to go to ancient tunnels because they have said that it is good. Then you go to ancient tunnels, you don't know how to teleport, you don't know how to deal with poison damage, so you die a lot. Or you have read somewhere that you are supposed to go to Mephisto. Then you go to Mephisto and you die a lot. Yeah. So that leads you to not enjoying the game as much. You play the game based on the future and not the moment. So you are not present in the moment, mindfulness. So you are never enjoying where you are. For example, myself, I am having tremendous amounts of fun with my noob lore helm and my yellow boots and ring. I'm having tremendous amounts of fun. I'm magic finding, I'm finding some good stuff, doing the best I can with my character. So, in a sense, less theory, more clicking buttons. Less relying on guides and more your own decision making. Less making decisions based on a theoretical optimum that you are rich and have a stash filled with bear runes, jar runes, ist runes, and all the high juicy stuff, because that's not reality. You're not gonna have those runes until very long into the game. And even if you are lucky and you get a Vex rune to drop, like for me, the other day in Ancient Tunnels, a Vex rune dropped. Vex runes, jar runes, ohm runes, bear runes are not going to drop every day. And trying to trade for them is not generally a good idea. Because, I mean, don't go into a trade and like, I want a bear rune and I'm going to offer you Talrasha's Mask, Talrasha's Orb, Immortal King's Maul, and why would someone want to trade their bear rune for 10 crappy items that they can find themselves? If someone has a bear rune, they are very likely have already mules filled with all those items. So don't focus on the high-end gear, focus on the budget gear, focus on trying to make the most out of the gear that you have and the drops that you have. Trade smartly, don't waste your high runes on gear that you can find with a little bit of effort. Do not trade a Shaco for a high rune. You can trade a Shaco for a high rune, but don't buy a Shaco for a high rune or something like this. Even Oculus. Oculus is a swirling crystal. Swirling crystals are not impossible to find unique. And enjoy. Enjoy your budget gear sorceress and have a lot of fun farming Duras of Hate. If you play Cold Sorceress, I recommend Ancient Tunnels, Mephisto, maybe Pindleskin. I personally don't like Pindleskin. You know, it doesn't really matter so much where you farm. I mean, bosses are always good if you want uniques. Bosses are the best for uniques. But if you want high runes and you know, monarchs and those kinds of things, it doesn't matter that much where you farm. It's more about trying to farm in an area where you don't have immunities. So for example, I would do River of Flame. I would go to City of the Damned and then I will go to River of Flame. But if there are cold, sometimes there are these cold immune mobs here that spawn, and my mercenary does not have that good gear. He has decent gear to stay alive for a while, but he doesn't have the high-end gear, right? So, but he can kill stuff if I do some micromanagement, and that's also the thing with mercenary. Of course, you want fortitude and all of those kinds of really good items, but you're not gonna start with fortitude. So forget about that. Try to put some decent. I got Stormspire, Corpse Mound, Chrome of Thieves. I want Lifesteal. You can also use Talrasha's Mask, which is relatively easy to find on your merc, and he can kill some pretty decent stuff. My mercenary with health potions can kill Lister, the Tormentor, the 5th wave boss that is fire and cold immune sometime in Throne of Destruction. With some micromanagement he can kill him. He can also kill Countess in case I would want to farm medium runes. So this is it. Hopefully this guide is helpful. Any comments, leave them below.